The following Zoom conversations were all filmed before April 15th, 2021.
Select level you want to play. Password mode activated. Type in your password. Are you sure you would like to proceed?
Alert, alert, alert. New modular game has been successfully downloaded. Welcome to the chart tangent report. The 460 pack. Activate. Trophy white. Activate. Stun a lip paint. Activate. Panties. Activate. Bras. Activate. Oversized denim dress. Activate. Shades. Activate. Anchors and sailboats. Activate. Red balloon. Activate anti. New fighter generated. Rihanna. Hairstyle change activated. Rihanna. Anti. Bantu knots. Press play for the 460 pack.
Looking at the charts, looking at the charts, looking at the charts, and what they say. Analyzing, analyzing, analyzing society.
Fair warning. This episode contains stan bias.
I really think Rihanna should be in this top 7.
Ooh.
She was in the conversation for the last 6 weeks. And I know Megan's album, she was also someone on my team, I think, tonight as well. But I just feel like we have to honor Rihanna. My Navy is jumping out. So those are my 2 cents.
Welcome to the Chart Tangent Report, a virtual video game and world where music journalists and industry influencers debate and award the best artists of the mainstream charts. In the span of 6 months, the panelists discussed the bad gal who hasn't released a new album in years. With that roster in mind, we now go to the draft and the trade-off sequence. Since this is the chart, clears throat again. Chart Tangent Report. Here are the top 7 highlights. Number 1. A Rihanna question determined the order of the draft.
Today is December 30th, 2020, and we still don't have a new album from Rihanna. How many days has passed since she dropped Anti?
Why would you do that?
No,
I got Nisha's answer.
I use a calculator.
Ain't this a good question? I was like,
I should have known it was coming.
mm-hmm. You know we have to talk about Rihanna in 2020.
God bless her soul.
Rihanna tweeted her link, the Samsung link, on January 27th, 2016. That means it has been 1,799 days since Rihanna released her last album, Anti, and Kyle was off by 19 days. Kyle put 1780. Jawan and Nyanka put 1750. Kia put 1440, and Demisha put 6,000.
In my defense, if you count the mental toll, it's been that long.
It does feel like it's been 6,000 days.
Why do people, I guess it's easy to say why chase a number 1, but sorry. I just like at some point you're sacrificing your music integrity for number 1, and it's just not worth it, in my opinion.
Yeah.
This year and like the whole emphasis on this number 1 debut this year is just out of control. Like I feel like it's very much okay to debut at number 2, debut at number 3. Songs can rise. They have risen in the past and they will continue to rise to number 1. You don't have to cram it all into week 1 and then see it drop. I think it broke the record for biggest drop this week. It dropped to like almost out of the top 40.
And they want to say that she was artist of the decade. Okay. I guess she was
Didn't what you call do the same thing though?
Then, but she ain't for 2020s. I'll tell you that.
Was that this year when Selena Gomez dropped and she was the number 1 album, and then like the very next week she wasn't in the top 20.
I think so. Well, her thing was like she was crying on her way to Target to buy her CDs.
That was a great video. I
felt like they lied because the day before they was like the results this week is going to be late because I don't know. I think they blamed COVID or something stupid. And then the next day it was like Selena Gomez was #1, and then like 5 days later she wasn't nowhere. Not a song was on the chart.
Do you guys think it's more of their team or them pushing themselves to get that #1 instead of like trying to build it, right? Like, because
I think it's both.
Yeah.
But sometimes you could tell when it's more so the artist. Because like I said, she was crying driving to Target to buy album.
Right. And then you can tell when it's a team, like when Yummy dropped, and then Bieber had like I think 4
Summer Walker remix
videos, Summer Walker remix, Borderline remix. I was like, okay. At this point, they're just like slapping Justin's vocal on whatever the track is to get Yummy to #1. But also, it's just like when you have a song like The Box, like you gotta be happy with #2 at that point.
Hello.
Like it's not gonna just move. Same thing with like when Old Town Road dropped. I was like, stop trying to compete. Like,
yeah,
the song is a juggernaut. Let it run its course, and stick with #2. It's fine.
It's really funny that Rihanna can just like sit back and she's still getting their numbers. She's still getting there. She's getting like a quarter to a half of their daily streams with basically Believe It. Like, and people aren't really listening to Believe It like that. But
hey,
they are.
Wait a minute. I loved Believe It. I didn't like it actually when it dropped, but I really grew to like it a lot.
I didn't. It wasn't for me.
Really?
Dang, girl.
Wow.
I love
I don't know. Like a lot of the like mainstream pop acts, it's just like crickets for me. And it's not for lack of talent. It's just you're not doing anything exciting for me. Mm-hmm. You're not moving the needle for me. Like there are small people like Victoria, for example. God knows she's not necessarily small anymore, but like she's doing something that is new, refreshing, or even old, but in a new way. The other girls chasing, and I was just in a room where she was speaking and she was saying like she's not chasing that kind of validation. She's working more towards like having an impact with her music. And I feel like a lot of the older acts that should know better, they're chasing that instead of chasing like or trying to craft a body of work that will have an impact.
Oh, that's cool. Because I just wrote at the Griot. Well, I wrote it like a week ago, but it's supposed to come out today. My must listen albums for the year for the Griot audience, but I included Victoria Monet, and that's what I wrote. Like she's doing something refreshing, and she's actually doing it. She's putting out her art and not just singles and bops. I thought they was gonna take that one off my list, but.
You could tell though, like you could tell when someone like you could tell when they're like really be working at that shit and when they're just like, how could we make the same song that already went viral with a similar beat, and how could we like get it up to like #1? It's just
you know our girl was guilty of doing that when she was struggling at Rock Nation. I'm gonna keep it a buck.
You know what? She might have been. But she was still giving us something fresh and new. Like it was
still right.
Like this is kind of the same thing, but with a twist. Now it's more like here's the same thing again.
I think a lot of the older acts are still trying to figure out where they fit in streaming. And I thought Taylor got it with Folklore, and then she did the Evermore drop, and I was like, okay, now we're back to square one because now you're trying to do the little double album thing, and it's working in some regard and it's not working in other regards, because the double album is hard to pull off because they have to be different. I liked Evermore. I thought Evermore was great. Like I think it's a great standalone album, but then you call it a sister album and it's like 40 tracks that are essentially the same genre, the same storylines, and it's like this isn't going to be like a loud rated R. It's not going to be like a Sweetener, Thank You Next.
And for the final category, Album of January. And the nominees are Jazmine Sullivan for Hotels, Rihanna for Anti, Pop Smoke for Shoot for the Stars, Aim for the Moon, and Taylor Swift for Evermore. Ain't this an interesting category? All right, so I'm going to start out with Nate for Jazmine Sullivan's Hotels.
I love that your Navy is jumping out with these with these specific nominations. But I have Miss Jazmine Sullivan, who I've been a fan of since the first time I heard Need You Bad, way back in 2008. Jasmine's had a long climb. She was first signed to Jive at 15, which is like '03. So she's almost 20 years into this game. And to just see the love and reception that Hotels has gotten, it's literally been so incredible. And I truthfully speaking, I feel like in an artistic sense, she definitely deserves this award just for the journey she's been on. Like, imagine going away for 6 years with features here and there and to come back to such fanfare and response, not just like chart wise with having your first top 5 project, but also like social media has like really just gotten behind her in a way that I just haven't seen before. So she's definitely a win for R&B, and I think she's going to have an incredible 2021.
Rihanna's Anti.
So this past January marked the 5-year anniversary of the release of Rihanna's last album, Anti. I say last as most recently released, not last. Hopefully we get a new one soon. But Anti has stood the test of time and proven to still be that girl after 5 years. Anti has emerged back on the charts as if it was not newly released, but it's up there with newly released albums. The impact is still there. The sounds that she created on Impact, the impact is still there. The sounds that she created on Impact, the impact is still there. The sounds that she created on Impact.
Song of January. And the nominees are Ariana Grande for 34 plus 35. Olivia Rodrigo for Driver's License. SZA for Good Days. And CJ for Whoopty.
This is stacked.
All right, SZA, Good Days. And that is Kyle. And your time starts now.
Well, when you look at the top 10, or basically the entirety of the Hot 100, there's no song that sounds like Good Days. You have SZA really just putting out a song that the fans were begging for since it was a snippet of the Hit Different video, and you have this sort of Jacob Collier R&B alternative sort of vibe to this track, and it's just is so uplifting, and really you are looking forward to Good Days when you hear this song, and it's probably the most authentic thing we've had from SZA since Control. And to see it hit number 9 on both the US charts and the global charts, this song is connected to people just across the globe, and it's damn good. It may not, have the radio play that other songs have, but when I look back on January and I look back on what song was really getting people through this, honestly, just terrible, crazy month, it was Good Days.
Trending headliner of January. And this is the person who is basically dominating social media conversations and headlines, media headlines. Sophie?
So we lost Sophie this year, I guess about a week ago. And she was a trending headliner, obviously, for her passing, but I would say more specifically, people really starting to acknowledge her immense impact on pop music and dance music over the past couple of years, past decade, really. She's pretty much influenced everything in terms of that PC music movement. When you're looking at, Charlie's albums post Boom Clap, you're looking at what Madonna was doing on Bitch I'm Madonna. Sophie has really just shaped music in a way that we won't even really see the full impact for another decade or two. and she was respected and really cherished and loved in her industry. Like, you know, Neil Rogers doesn't just wish everybody well, right? And to see that she was really branching out and people just admired her so much, and really seeing that outpouring of love was really gratifying to see, because this is, you know, a trans woman and really just, you know, in the forefront of actually being praised wholeheartedly for her contributions to music in a way that so many people like her just pushed into the shadows, into the background. It really was a shame that it took her passing for that to happen, but I'm really, you know, very excited that people are looking at her impact and going back to stream her incredible music that she released on her own.
Now, these are called the So Pop Awards because we all know, or you're going to learn very soon, that one of my favorite lyrics of all time is said by the queen herself, Rihanna. How could you be so hood, but you so pop? Yes, you saw how I edited myself too, because these are the So Pop Awards. Okay, the next category. I'm going to try to make this really quickly. Best Trap Pop Bop. So these are songs that musically are trappish but pop, lyrically are trappish but pop, and vocally trappish but pop in the way that the singer is performing.
Dua Lipa's We're Good is like a, you know, pretty in terms of breakup tunes, like we all know that breakup tunes don't have to be like, oh, I hate you so much. Like this is like it's respectable, it's mature.
It's blase.
I really, really like it. It's always been I think that and You Broke Me First honestly have been like two pop songs that I'm like, I keep frequenting them. If they pop up on my Spotify, I'm not going to skip them. But since Dua is my girl for this particular game show,
I was gonna say, Jana, that's a good point. It's like I nominated them for Trap Pop Bop because it's the attitude that they have. Like it Tate McRae, like I don't care to, like she's basically telling him off. The attitude in the video is like it feels very like bad gal, like the writing, it feels trap pop.
Are on Anti are still influencing the whisper R&B girls. And that's no shade. I like the whisper R&B music, but you can hear Anti's impact through their releases. Rihanna is sitting comfortably on a Fenty empire. The news today just released that she's taking a break from the designer label, but we are still getting Savage Fenty. We're still getting Fenty Beauty. We're still getting Rihanna social media posts, and hopefully we're still getting new Rihanna music. So just the simple fact that it's been 5 years and Anti is still here, it's here to stay, and it deserves to be the album of the month for January.
Thank you. That was cheers. At the Chart Tangent Report, we do just have a smidge bit of bias. Up next is Pop Smoke Shoot for the Stars, Aim for the Moon. Again, a smidge bit of bias here. Like I was a Chris Brown album listener, you know, despite all the things that happened, because y'all know who up and down. Y'all know I'm Rihanna all the way, but
it's
like
the Navy. It's the Navy.
Like,
the Navy. It's the Navy.
Like,
the Navy. It's the Navy.
I'm Navy all the way.
Look at the charts. I don't know really else what else I have to say. Like, I mean, besides Morgan Wallen, whose album was released this year, the #1 album in the country has been Pop Smoke, Shoot for the Stars, Aim for the Moon since we got into the new year. Point blank period. I mean, it still holds up. Deluxe tracks and all, the entire collection being 2 hours in all, it still holds up. What You Know About Love, I think just hit #1 on R&B radio or rhythmic radio this past week. He's still getting hits just like effortlessly off this record that dropped in July of last year. Like, we're gonna come up on a year and this album will still be in the top 10. I'm gonna call it right now. Like, it's not going anywhere anytime soon. Pop Smoke is the king, and Shoot for the Stars is the album of January.
And finally, Taylor Swift's Evermore.
So obviously, like Folklore dropped last summer. That was a big thing. Taylor Swift, no, teasing just, what, 2 nights before, if that, less than, no notice really. And then to follow up with an album 6 months later, obviously when we saw it with Ariana, that was a much different conversation than someone like Taylor Swift kind of falling into that place. And so the deluxe version of Evermore came out this January, and really just expanded on the stories that she was telling, still continuing to see her get back into her storytelling, not sitting here trying to defend herself anymore from whatever criticism or drama she thinks she's involved in, and really just getting back to the core of her music that made her interesting from the beginning. Having a song like Nobody, No Crime, which is just, very much Taylor, and the parallels and the stories that, you can draw through, and the lyric parallels between like the friend Esther and Nobody, No Crime, and then showing up in another song saying like, I'm still at that diner, and just like really like the like little nuggets of information that you have to be paying really close attention to, makes listening to an album like this with its counterpart like so much more fun, because it's more than just a listening experience. You are getting a whole story and like a whole experience out of it if you take the time to really delve into it.
Okay, so I am going to open this up for rebuttals. I'm gonna start with just the fact that Pop Smoke and Taylor Swift have been duking it out on the albums chart. It's like they've been hits daily double like all of January. Was pretty much like, these are the contending albums for #1, and they were always in the mix but not hitting #1 because Morgan Wallen was just blocking them. That's weird. But I will say, I want to start with Taylor Swift. I'm surprised Evermore is staying so fervent, because I don't really see the album being discussed. I see all of if Taylor Swift is in discussions, it's her old stuff. I don't see people really discussing Evermore. So I'm kind of like, where are these numbers coming from? Like, people are still buying it, and I'm wondering why the conversation just culturally stopped, because she's still winning. I mean, because of Evermore and Folklore, she is on top of the most streamed women daily when they tweet the daily updates, and you're like, Taylor Swift again. So this is probably one of the first albums in a while that's like doing well, that is not culturally doing well, if that makes sense.
Yeah, and I think that also goes with the Folklore thing, the fact that it is more so a companion piece, and also, what is it? It just came out today. She's making some big announcement tomorrow or something like that, which is probably going to be more music. And obviously, like the Long Pond Sessions thing came out, and so like she got people really back into Folklore at the end of the year, just in time for Evermore to show up as well. And you can't really have a conversation with one without having a conversation about the other. But like, we don't really need to still be having conversations about Folklore. We're at a point where, people are waiting for the re-recordings to drop. And like, that's really where more of the conversations are going to be shifting. There's really no cultural conversation to be having about Taylor Swift when this is, the project at hand. It is just a solid project that doesn't really have much more going on with it that needs to be discussed in the way that like the re-recordings are going to be talked about, obviously, because it's going to be, the conversation between this music and like the original recordings, and Scooter is going to be brought back into it, and that whole situation is going to arise again. So I think her fans definitely are really taking this opportunity to just focus on the music and just sit down with it. Obviously, like, we don't know like if she's releasing like more visuals or anything like that, because she's always teasing something, and they really do like their FBI investigation work to guess what she's doing next. I would just wait for it to come out. I don't get the point of just sitting here being like, oh, I think it's going to be this, because then you're going to be wrong, and then it's going to be some whole other thing. But I think because the two go hand in hand is why we're seeing Evermore still stay so strong. And it's not like there's really not a cardigan on Evermore. I guess that's what Willow was supposed to be, and it just didn't really pan out that way. But it is like more emotional songs and songs about her grandmother, and just like, stuff like that that's really drawing people to it, and like it's a comfortable listen. Not a lot going on in January. Just like, you know, put that on, you're kind of mellowed out. Then obviously her merch drops, vinyl drops, all of that. People just wanting to support her just because she's managed to come back in such a strong way, especially post Reputation, post Lover not really being a strong era for her. Even though, I mean, that Lover could have been a moment for her, but she kind of, there were too many wrong turns that were made. But I think everyone's just happy seeing her in an unbothered creative mode where she's not being distracted by the rest of the conversations going on.
Like I honestly am shocked that I've kept Evermore in rotation. I thought I would go back to Folklore, but I haven't. So I see how it's just kind of like snuck into people's rotation and like just kept it afloat. And she's been doing a really good job of making sure that her like website is like stocked with like vinyl drops and merch drops that always will keep keep her up there in terms of the pure sales numbers, even if the streams falter off, which they haven't yet. But yeah,
I think it's also one of those albums where the first time you listen to it, certain songs stand out, and the more you listen to it, you start finding other favorites. So I think the more that people are listening to it, they're just revisiting because they're just like, oh, what's gonna really catch me next time? Because you can get kind of distracted. I know like Nobody No Crime was like the one thing I listened to like on repeat like the first weekend that it dropped, and then Gold Rush, and you know, once you start actually sitting with it as a body of work and those favorites start popping out, like it gives you a reason to keep going back because you're thinking, oh, I'm going to keep finding more things that I didn't notice the first time I listened.
Yeah, Gold Rush snuck up on me recently, and I was like, she gets it again, like she understands it. Like, anywho, see, like we're all positive, you know. But yeah, I'm really, now that you brought that up, Larisha, like I think like that's very, very, very important. Like she does make music because I feel like 1989 was like that. It's like, oh, this is a pop album, okay, whatever. And then by the summer, when the Bad Blood remix came out, you discover new things and you're like, wait, New Romantics, what? Like it's she has a gift for making albums like that, but it's like I'm noticing that the general public, it's not their cup of tea anymore. But is it their cup of tea, or is it the Swifties helping her and us, the critics, helping her, or is it the general public? Like that stuff always just fascinates me because I think the music consumers are really divided in three, and it's like stands, general public, and media, and I don't know.
I think with Taylor Swift, there's a lot more overlap between general public and stands than you would see for a lot of other people. Taylor Swift is very palatable for everyone. There are very few people who are just going to be here like, oh no, I don't really like, you know, if the Taylor Swift comes on, a lot of people are going to be like, oh God, turn that off. I think she has a, you know, feet in both worlds. Just because she hasn't been around for so long. And I think that's also like a big part of it. Like she's not somebody who, you know, Ariana, like how we're seeing like Ariana just get into her moment where she can just be releasing things and not having to really stay on top of it. Taylor's been there for forever.
I also think that with Folklore dropping, she gained a new audience in a way that there are people who would actively avoid a Taylor Swift song, like from, I guess, like Red through like Lover or something like that. But then when Folklore dropped and it was like, oh, this is a gorgeous album. They're like, oh, I get it. I get why people are into Taylor Swift now. So people that she lost with the indie folk sound, she's gained a new audience that are now looking forward to seeing her drop. So I think that little sort of demo switch worked really well in her favor. And with the GMA announcement tomorrow, I mean, she's probably going to announce Love Story re-recording to be up for Valentine's Day next week.
Which brings to my point, like, I know there was a lot more new releases, but albums that we were talking about and that are doing well, like charting wise, it's all this old stuff. Well, Evermore is not really old. Evermore was released in December, but like Pop Smoke's album is still in the conversation, and that's a July release. And call it Navy biased with the nomination for Rihanna's Anti, but I nominated it because it was very interesting seeing everyone ride for the album 5 years later when that was not the case. And we can keep it all the way real. Like Nene said at the slumber party, let's keep it all the way real. Like the certifications came out. The Lil Rock Nation video had people in a tizzy. They was like, what? Work streamed over or bought or streamed or consumed over 30 million times. Like, that's not true, but it is true. Like, Work was a global smash. It still smashes today. I just wanted to shout out my girl Rihanna for Anti, but it was relevant. Like, I was surprised at the level of conversation that was happening surrounding the album. And I think what's crazy is, like, what is it going to be like in 10 years? What is it going to be like in 20 years? My gosh, missed a huge thing. Amorphous for Kiss It Better being sampled with the Luther Vandross, and then Fat Joe, you got Diddy dancing all up in the video to Kiss It Better. Okay, so the next category. This one is going to be a fun one. This category is Best Dance Bop of March and April's Now. And the nominees are The Worst in Me by K Tronada and Tinashe. My Head and My Heart by Ava Max. Locket by Charlie XCX, Kim Petras, and J Bum Park. Sunshine, The Light by Fat Joe and Amorphous. As I Am by Justin Bieber and Khalid. And Poster Girl by Zara Larson.
Oh, God, yes.
So this is Best Dance Bop of March and April's Now. This is, again, that infectious song. And here at the Chart Tangent Report, we consider dance, it can be a line dance groove kind of song. It can have that throwback. I'm Diddy on the yacht dancing to this music. And then, okay, Sunshine, The Light is blowing up on the lowest of keys right now.
I do not understand this song. I just want to say.
I don't think I've ever heard it, to be quite honest.
Like, can someone explain to me?
Well, that is like Kyle's artist. I would like to put in some things as well, but yes.
Work is my guy.
I would like to pose a question, you know, that you can answer within your. Why are we listening to Fat Joe in the Lord's year of 2021?
I wish I could give you an answer to that one.
I can give you an answer for that. Fat Joe is fire. The OGs in hip hop, they still releasing commercially relevant music. I mean, they're still Nas won Best Album.
I wouldn't rap say album. Fat Joe was releasing commercially relevant music. I think Fat Joe saw an opportunity and jumped on it. Like, I think that's what happened.
Aligned with the right person.
Yeah, I think it was definitely a matter of like, okay, this, you know, young star is blowing, you know, the fuck up on Twitter, and how can I, you know, insert myself? He does that, DJ Khaled does that, Diddy does that, so it's no surprise that the three of them all jumped on this song and like did it.
But also, like, why is half the song a sample of like Rihanna's Kiss It Better from 2016? Yeah.
So Amorphous is, you know, he's a filmmaker, he's a producer, he's an artist, he's, you know, all of the above. But his claim to fame on Twitter, at least, and Bandcamp a couple years prior, was making mashups.
So it's that Amorphous, right?
Yes. So he made a mashup of Never Too Much, I believe, and Kiss It Better that went viral. That was like the one that really catapulted him into this current sphere that he's in right now. So basically, Fat Joe just took that track, that mashup, rapped a verse over it, added some more stuff, and now we have Sunshine the Light, which I don't remember which verses it debuted on, but I remember they were expanding the song. Like the DJ set before the verses, when that happens, like it would get played like every 5 minutes. Like they were like really pushing the song hard. And it was a while back, and I was like, okay, well, I guess this is like a nice fleeting moment, but I don't know if anything's really gonna come out of this. And the song is doing things. Like it's top 40 on pop radio, I believe. It's like rising in the UK official charts right now. It's like actually making a commercial impact on a level of like a, you know, it's charting alongside like Ariana Grande's Point of View and stuff like that. So it's basically Amorphous's first, it is his first Billboard hit, and it's going to probably be his first mainstream hit. And it's just a great moment to see, you know, the internet really rally behind this young Black producer and to see him reach heights that he has been completely through social media. So it's a nice moment from a cultural standpoint, and musically, you know, you're pulling from Luther and you're pulling from Rihanna, like two different eras, but like everything is coming together and it's perfect.
Yes, yeah, I mean, I think it's interesting for the dance conversation. I mean, a mashup. I remember, I forgot is it DJ? The DJ who does the yearly mashups of all the big pop hits. I mean, was doing it for a couple years. I don't know if he still does
DJ
it.
Earworm?
Yes, DJ
Yeah.
Earworm.
Yeah.
So it's like interesting that we've been exposed to another trend. It's like the hyper pop was a trend, and now that's becoming a regular staple and a regular thing in music now. It's like now we're on to mashups. I mean, we've been following Amorphous for a very long time in the stan world, and it's like another stan, basically a more positive stan in this situation, is like blowing up. And I mean, it's a cute sample of mashups of the samples. Like, you know, I'm always in favor of something that shows that anti is relevant and has impact. So, you know, and you know, it's interesting that Diddy and them is dancing all up in the video. I mean, that's a part of their brand at this point, and I'm so desensitized to it, honestly, where I'm just like, as long as the shit is entertaining, who gives a that's just where I'm at with like the whole Diddy dance in the video and Fat Joe. Like, but that's what hip hop is though. Like hip hop is like, I respect the move from Fat Joe as like a hip hop like game player, like someone who observes hip hop sometimes for the strategy that gets used. That's what hip hop is. Hip hop is about like hopping on trends and flexing on a trend. And I think that, like, you know, they're showing, we're paying attention. I don't know. That's just how I view it. So like, don't snub Anti. It deserved its nomination. It deserved because it's been affecting. It's interesting, and I mean, they said that what Needed Me got a surprise certification. I was like, no, it was something about Needed Me had happened that kind of threw me off guard even. So people are still revisiting the album. It is the highest, longest charting album by a Black woman ever. I feel like Anti can fit in that conversation because all the other albums were important for their time period and still maintain it. And it seems like Anti is heading towards that trajectory. I don't know. I'm definitely defending Anti on this one. I think it deserved its spot. I mean,
I think also the way that kind of conversation was started up again. I've seen it on TikTok and on, you know, a few people talking about it on Twitter, but same old mistakes. The whole Tame Impala conversation around it, because obviously like Tame Impala's last album didn't do great, but like that type of music is really prominent within certain circles, and it puts obviously Rihanna's name in conversations that we were not putting her name in those conversations before that album dropped, just because it did show that she could do so many different things, and seeing it does show that like a lot of moments on that album were ahead of their time because all that stuff kind of showing up now, and we're just like, oh yeah, remember when Rihanna did this, which, you know, the conversations around her are mainly like, you know, where's the album, we want the album, but like when you actually stop to like pay attention to like what she was doing then in comparison to what's happening, you know, in recent months, I think that does say a lot. But she does need to get it together. Like, I don't know, you know, what she's doing with the makeup and the lingerie and ASAP Rocky. Like, enough is enough. It's, you know, we get it.
yeah, she been playing well. It's like it makes me go when the stats look so good though. When the stats look so good, it's like I really don't need to rush my album. Like people are still spinning her old stuff. Like it's crazy. Like she's in the top when they release the daily female artists on Spotify, she's always in the top 10. And she's like neck and neck with people who have singles that are hot now. Like y'all streaming her old stuff as much as the most relevant like singles that are out. It's an interesting conversation to have. And then Jazmine Sullivan's Hotels. When I listened to Hotels, it really defines where the R&B shift is now. Jazmine Sullivan basically, to me, she released a project that is definitely about to shift R&B again. I really think that what's been going on with R&B lately is like everyone has low-key been like fighting for that R&B era spot. Like just how we say, oh no, it's the era of Little Baby. Like I feel like there's been a few R&B projects where we can say because this artist released this, it's the era of this. And Jazmine Sullivan, like with this release, reminded us of all the work that she's put into contemporary R&B to where it is at right now. And her collaboration with like Ari Lennox, like I just love projects like these. Like I love projects that the genre is still in a culture war and then a gatekeeper type figure. I don't know if that's an appropriate term for Jazmine Sullivan, but you know, a pioneer, a gatekeeper type figure just drops a project and it has to reset everything because it's like, well, she put like this is what happened with B7 with Brandy for me. Like when Brandy dropped B7, everyone in that space and that lane had to pay attention, even if you didn't like it, even if you did like it. And you know, then she worked a little era with it. So it's interesting seeing that Jazmine Sullivan was able to sing the national anthem. I mean, they dropped the ball with that, like they usually do with many other things. I don't know why that man was playing that guitar all off key. Why they allowed him to sing, right?
Yes, it was a duet.
I honestly feel like they did that for the whole
All lives matters.
What's that? We need to unite movement. Let's get a black girl and a white man and prove that they can sing together so that the rest of the country can ignore their differences and hold hands, because he was really that would have, you know what they should have did? That white man should have sang America the Beautiful, and then her should have been playing the guitar and singing with Jazmine. But then we would never watch the game. That nobody would watch the game. Like that just would have been the show right there. So
I think for me, like you're right. I feel like Jazmine releasing this project kind of like hits a reset. Like I love that it was released top of the year, first of all. Like she's just like, here I go. Now there's like no pressure on her for the rest of 2021. She can really do whatever she wants to do. I'm loving the press tour. I'm loving the elevated glam. I'm loving even her committing to like this 60s era of glam. Like I have not seen this much fanfare, press, even her commitment to the show, like to like being in the public space since the debut run when she had 6 Grammy nominations and was on Ellen. Like I'm sitting here like, I'm like, is this 2008? Like I'm very excited to see this for her as a fan, not because I think she's, you know, incredible singer, artist, vocalist, all that jazz, but because R&B needs someone like her right now. Like we haven't had soul in a minute. Like we haven't heard like soul, like a full project of like soul, but it's still so contemporary at the same time, especially lyrically. Jazmine is always of the moment lyrically, but it's also just as timeless. So I do think it's a bit of a reset for R&B. She set the tone, and now what are we looking forward to this year? Is her giving her debut? Is Jazmine going to give us a full album now? Like I'm curious to see where R&B kind of leads. Outside of like SZA, I know she'll give us something this year, but who knows? Who knows who's coming down the pipeline?
What made Hotel so great to me was but even beyond just how much I just gets people just able to relate to this track. Like obviously, like this album, this project really spoke to millennial Black women in a way that it wasn't speaking to really anybody else. But I find it crazy how, like, even in my friend group, which is a fairly diverse group of people, we all fast to latch onto the project. And I think it's so important you have a project that has songs like Lost Tool and Pick Up Your Feelings next to a track like Put It Down. Like that to me blew my mind, because now it's like, this is Jazmine, like you were saying, someone who's, you know, really embraced and held by the quote unquote gatekeepers of R&B and soul, being like, you can do this on a track and it can still work together in one cohesive project. So I expect to see a lot of songs, a lot of projects sounding like those two, something mixture of those songs for the rest of the year. And even beyond the impact for the album, like it's just damn good. Like it is impeccable. And the fact that it's a project and like not even like the real album yet, I'm legitimately scared for what is about to come from her, because it was absolutely phenomenal.
Yes. And yeah, I agree with all of that. And now it is time to submit in the final votes. Okay, so for album of January, congratulations to Jazmine Sullivan for Heaux. I mean, that was a unanimous decision. The 7 artists that have made it through. Now, just because they have won an award does not mean that they need to be in the final 7 ranking. If there's any objections, I will give y'all 20 seconds tops to object to anyone and throw in your candidate. Then from there, you guys will each send me your ranking of the top 7 that you feel, and I will try to determine who the 7 are. All right, so the 7 artists. I put in Megan Thee Stallion.
Flashback to bonus discussion during album of January category.
I don't know. If anyone wants to add anything to...
I'll give you your Davey moment, because you're right. You're right. There was a lot of conversation about it. I was surprised to get nominated here only because I think a similar conversation could be had about Good News, because of the way that people have been recently like, oh, can we be honest about Good News? And yet, Megan stays parked in the top 10 for the album.
Can I jump in here?
Yes.
I definitely want to speak to both points. I do think people are streaming Good News. It's so funny because, yeah, there was a lot of conversation like, oh, this is terrible. This is da 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 da. But I'm like, 100K first week. It's not a bad for a debut.
And Sweetie. If there's anyone else, or are there any objections?
Much as I love Megan, I really think Rihanna should be in this top 7.
Oh,
She was in the conversation for the last 6 weeks. And I know Megan's album, she was also someone on my team, I think, tonight as well. But I just feel like we have to honor Rihanna. My Navy is jumping out. So those are my 2 cents.
sorry, Larisha brought someone to the table. Larisha brought in Ariana Grande.
I thought you just said her name, and it was already in my brain.
Oh, I said Rihanna.
Oh well, I'm gonna keep Ariana.
You're gonna keep Ariana, okay?
I give her thing. Y'all took her from me at the beginning of this. She was on my team, and then she got snatched away.
Flashback to draft and trade sequence.
Larisha, you get the first choice in the roster, and so you can say aloud to all the panelists who you would like to choose. And you already have Olivia Rodrigo.
Right, okay. Can I have Ariana? She was on my team and then she got snatched away. So let me have this.
Okay, all right. All right. So I am going to do the ranking based on what I see. Ooh, Megan and Rihanna have 2 votes each. So one of them is about to be canceled out. Ariana, I'm sorry. Do not make the top 7 count.
It's the principle of it, you know.
Larissa should decide then, since she got knocked out. Maybe she could decide between
Right?
Megan.
It's Megan and
Yes,
Rihanna.
for the number 7 spot, and Rihanna.
I'm gonna go Megan. Honestly.
Oh, my girl is on the bubbling under. She was so close. The number 7 artist of January goes to Megan Thee Stallion.
For Riri, you should have released that album like you promised. Better luck next time. Stay tuned for installment 5, The Mainstream Finces, Part 2, and find out which 2 female rappers will chart at number 6 and number 5 for the final countdown of January 2021 on the Chart Tangent Report.